Thank God he'd have broke whatever he kicked. And so then we get into a pretty good scuffle. We end up on top of the moving carousel on top of this like 60 or 70-year-old guy.
JBL went on the Something to Wrestle podcast and talked about the time he fought Steve Blackman in an airport. I don't know why anyone would want to fight Steve Blackman, but let's see what JBL has to say.
He told us a story, and maybe occasionally Bruce doesn't let the truth get in the way of a good story. So now that we've got the horse's mouth here, so to speak, did you ever have any fun incidents with Steve Blackman? Maybe
I don't call it fun. We got into a fight about 9 o'clock in the morning at Kansas City airport baggage claim. Yeah, we sure did. Yeah. And what happened is Steve had migraine headaches. And I think this is what led up to it, because there were a couple of guys that you would know very well that were huge Hall of Famers that had messed with Steve on the flight. And Steve was trying to sleep. They didn't tell me Steve was in a horrible mood. They said, hey, go mess with Steve. And so I just thought he was having a bad day or something. I didn't realize that, how bad it was. So they had kept him awake or something like that and kept him up on the flight. He had these migraine headaches and he was in a terrible mood. I didn't know that. They were setting me up, and which I would have done to somebody else, but it was happened to be me. So Steve was sitting there in like shorts or something. I walked up and I pinched him on the butt and I said, "You look nice in them shorts there, boy." Doing the old deliberate thing, and again, guys will take that out of context and make all kinds of things of it. That guys did stupid stuff like that back then. We didn't have the internet. We were bored. Steve backhands me and hits me about 6 or 7 times before I can freaking move. I mean, it's just I'm like a freaking punching dummy. He's like bam, 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 bam. I'm like, oh my God. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden I realize I'm in a freaking fight. And thank God in the middle of it, he steps back to kick me, that being like kick we talked about, and he stuck his foot into a bag at baggage claim. Thank God he'd have broke whatever he kicked. And so then we get into a pretty good scuffle. We end up on top of the moving carousel on top of this like 60 or 70-year-old guy. And Shamrock was on the phone. He's the one that came over and broke it up. And so yeah, we had a pretty good kerfuffle. Thank God he stepped in that bag. I don't know what he'd have done, but it wouldn't have ended up well for me. And, I felt bad about it because, it was my fault. I deserved every bit of it. I shouldn't have been messing with him. I didn't realize he's having such a bad day. Steve and I were friends. I'd done stuff like that 100 times. Whatever it was wrong that day. And, shit happens.
It tickles me because we never had the context that other people had been ribbing him the entire time, getting him ready for you. So in a weird way, although they had been ribbing Steve Blackman, this became a rib on you. They knew what would happen. You did not.
100%. Yeah. If I can't tell who it is. It's 2 Hall of Famers that were ribbing him, and they set me up so good. And I'd have done that to somebody else, I'd have thought it's just as funny as they probably thought it was too. When we started fighting and ended up on baggage claim. But yeah, Steve was having a bad day. These guys are messing with him, and I walked up right at the wrong freaking time and did the wrong thing at the right time and ended up paying the price. That was the day, by the way. So they pulled us in. So one thing Bruce is wrong about, and
man, that's crazy. Yes. It's as if the Hall of Famers, they were revving Steve Blackman up to get him ready to then go and rib JBL. Pretty wild story, man. I couldn't imagine what happened if he would have landed that kick. But dang, imagine you just going and you're messing with Steve Blackman, and he does the whole pinching his butt thing or whatever, and then the next thing you know, you're just getting the crap kicked out of you by Steve Blackman, and that's insane. Sounds like it's a hardcore match that was taking place around that time, huh? The WWE hardcore matches for the hardcore title taking place in an airport, huh? Sounds pretty wild.
I think Bruce is lying, so don't. I'm not saying that he is. I'm certainly not. People conflate stories. Bruce did talk to me that day, and I did tell him the quote. I didn't even know I was in a fight, Mr. Pritchard, till he hit me 9 times. That's true. 100% that's true. But Bruce didn't find me that day. JR found me that day. So, JR pulled us aside. And he's like, you got a cigarette. He goes, hey, I'd rather somebody fire me than find me. And I said, I wouldn't. If you fire me, I can't pay the fucking fine. I'm like, what? That's the dumbest comment I ever heard. Don't fire me, find me. I can pay that if I've got a job. And that day was the day that Owen Hart died. That night.
Oh wow.
Yep, sure was.
I didn't realize it was the same day. Man,
same day. Yeah, it was in Kansas City that day, and that's the day, unfortunately, that Owen Hart passed away. And Steve and I were good friends. We were good friends after that. It just, shit happens.
Isn't it interesting though that when these stories get out there, there becomes a narrative? I don't think the rest of the wrestling world knew that was a rib on you. You were set up to get punched and kicked at baggage claim, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I like having.
Yeah, and I had messed with Steve a bunch of times because we you know, I that's what we did. That's what I did too. You know, and so it wasn't just but yes, 100%. You're right. Steve was in a bad mood because some guys had been messing with him on the plane. I went up at the wrong time, and, and I ended up paying the price. And I told him, "I said, Steve, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to set you over the edge, which I didn't. I was just having some fun."
I love Bruce's impression of you as he tells the story. Mr. Pritchard, he hit me so fast.
But Bruce telling us that part is 100% true. Now, Bruce didn't find me, but the that part is 100% true. I've never been hit that fast in my life. I mean, that guy can fight. I mean, he can fight. I mean, he was hitting me. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And it's like 9:00 in the morning, and he's hitting me, and it's hard. He's hitting me hard too. Like, holy shit! I'm freaking fighting Chuck Norris here. This guy can go.
So tell me a little bit about what you guys are told about the rules and just the tone and tenor of the locker room. There was a lot of speculation that, Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn came to the WWF to not do this, and maybe it wasn't going to be as fruitful for them. They may have made more money with that sort of thing in the UFC and not in the confines of a WWE ring. But there's lots of speculation. Hey, is this? I remember at the time people thinking, well, even though they're saying this is going to be a shoot, they're going to work it because they would never do an actual shoot inside a WWF wrestling ring. There's athletic commissions in every state. And there's a whole host of reasons. Did you guys have any suspicion that this might, even though they're saying this is going to be a shoot, they're going to find a way to turn it into a work? Or what was
Vince reserved the right. When he told us the very first day that he went over all the rules, he reserved the right. He said, I reserve the right to cheat. And he was very clear with it. If they wanted something else to happen, they were clear that he reserved the right. Now, as far as I know, none of that happened. But Vince, reserved the right that if something goes sideways with this, which you never know what's going to happen. You got to shoot. You can't program this. Bruce called me the like Thursday before the first fight on Monday and gave me a call as how he told me about all the whole thing. And he said, you want to be in a shoot fight on Monday? I said, why? I said, why would I be in a shoot fight on Monday? And he goes, we're going to do a shoot fighting tournament. I said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. And I said, at the time, everybody thought it was for Doc. Everybody, this stuff with Russo came up later, which I think was manufactured out of thin air to cover up for, one of his horrible ideas. But everybody thought it was for Doc. And I said, Bruce, Doc is older. I said, he's not the same Doc that he was when he was 28. When he's 28, he probably wins the thing. And I said, he's had concussions. He's had issues. He's had all these stiff matches in Japan. I said, Doc's not going to win this thing. I said, a guy like Bob Holly is going to win this thing. And, no one knew that Bart could hit like he did. Bart had won a bunch of tough man contests. Nobody, people knew Bart was a tough guy, but nobody knew that he had a freaking punch like George Foreman. And so then I asked Bruce, I said, is Shamrock I said, are the Shooter Boys in it? Shamrock and Severn. He goes, yeah, they're in it. I said, well, can you put them in just at least my second fight where I could have a chance of winning one before I get beat by a freaking UFC champion? And he goes, no, it's a blind draw. It's a blind draw, which is listen, I love Bruce. You love Bruce. Dave Sybil loves Bruce. We're the only ones that do other than Gerald Briscoe. But we three love Bruce. This is not true. I told Bruce, I said, you're going to put me out there against Henry Godwin. I said, I know you are. Because they wanted years ago, about a year before, they called this double clothesline spot because they wanted to see a car wreck with me and Henry. Henry's this, huge, big, tough guy, and I was this big cowboy. So they wanted to see us run into each other. I said, I know you want to see me fight Henry. He goes, no, it's a shoot. It's a blind draw. I said, no way. I got there Monday. I'm fighting Henry Godwin, just like I called. Bart was fighting Bob Holly, his tag team partner. Droz was fighting Hawk, his tag team partner. Merrill and Blackman, the two good shooters, as far as boxing, and Blackman was a great shooter, end up fighting each other. No way that was a blind draw. That was a
That's hilarious. No, I know you want me to fight Henry Godwin. So at the end, they're talking about the Brawl for All, the infamous Brawl for All tournament where it was, shoot fights. And so apparently Vince McMahon was like, well, okay, I reserved the right to cheat, in case this goes sideways. And apparently, I mean, I think that's what happened. I remember at the time, I don't know how true it is, but I remember as it was happening back when I was like, what, 14 years old, looking up on the internet. And I remember reading that after the whole Bart Gunn knocking out Dr. Death thing, which I was there for, that was a great moment. Same night as Choppy Choppy Your Pee-Pee. Huh. I was there for 2 legendary Attitude Era moments. But anyway, Bart Gunn, after that whole thing happened, because from what I remember correct, like the whole thing was supposed to make Dr. Death Steve Williams look like this tough guy, and so once he got knocked out, it was like, well, where do we go from there? I remember hearing after that whole thing that the matches were then that they were no longer 100% shoots. So I don't know how true that is, but I remember that happening once it went sideways, which, I mean, listen, yeah, JBL might have been wrong about who would have won, like Hardcore Holly. But he was right that it was going to be like a younger guy. It was going to be a younger, lower card guy. And it turned out to be Bart Gunn. So that was a pretty great story there by JBL. What do you guys think of this clip? Sound off in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy content like this. And if you do enjoy content like this, I have a whole bunch more videos on the screen for you to click away and enjoy. Merry Christmas, everybody.